Guys, I've got this old TV to fix. Tina tells me that it's intermittently turning itself off or kind of restarting itself. There is the model number. It's LG. It's old, manufactured October 2006. What does that make it? 18 years old, almost. It's not a primary TV, but and it's only 720p, I think, something like that. The resolution's terrible. You can't use it for a computer monitor, for example. The resolution's not good enough. But what is good is the sound. The sound's incredible. So, the story behind this TV is that about 10 years ago I fixed the power supply board. A couple of MOSFETs and a diode exploded, and I replaced them, and it's worked okay since then. But before I decided to repair the board, I actually bought a new one on eBay, and this is what it looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the back off. I'm going to replace the power supply board. There's many other things it could be. It's more likely actually to be the main board, or maybe even bad connectors. I'll have a close look at the HDMI connector, because it's an HDMI device she's using. It looks a bit bent actually, so I'll look at that too. But what you need to remember before you take one of these things apart is well, a number of things. First of all, make sure it's unplugged. First and foremost, unplug it from the mains. Always be careful when you handle these power supply boards, because the big capacitor, the big black thing in the middle, it holds an awful lot of charge, about 450 volts. And if you touch it, it can really ruin your day, or worse. Also, a thing to remember is that if you don't remove these little nuts that are holding the RS232 connector and the RGB in, for example, and here also, and here, and here, you won't get the back off. Stefan, please boy, please be quiet, be quiet. Another irritating thing about this is that you can't take the back off without removing the stand. So I don't have the room to work on this in here, so I'm going to take it outside to the table outside, change the board, and see what happens from there, and put it on the soak test. I don't know if this is a working board. It's supposed to be, but these electrolytic capacitors can do strange things when they haven't had power applied for some time. They used to, in the old days, have to reform them before using the board, but we ain't going to do that. We're just going to put it in and see what happens. Right guys, this thing weighs an absolute ton, so it's going to be a real struggle to get it outside, but I'm sure Stefan will help. Won't you, Stefan? Yeah. Right, see you outside. So guys, my memory was a bit flawed about this. Once you take the plastic back off, it's got this EMI shield against electromagnetic interference, and this is the part where you have to take these little nuts off, here and here. When you open the back cover, have a good look round, because sometimes you can find that Rocky the Roach and his family have set up home inside, and that can sometimes cause you a problem, because are the short circuits. So now I've got the RFI shield off. Now's the time to inspect all the connectors are connected properly. Check for damage. Check that the new power supply board is the same as the old one. Right down to the board number, if you can see it. Inspect the old board to see if you can see any problems. This is a little bit dirty, this board, but I don't see any major issues. Nothing at all, but that doesn't mean anything. Check all your connections are sound. And go ahead and change the board, which I'll do now. This is the old board. I've just taken it out and you can see the repair I made all those years ago. This diode and these two MOSFETs, all three had exploded, but I don't know what else damage it caused to any of the other components around, so really I should have changed the board in the first instance. There's the model number again, so we'll check all that before we put it in. And the new one's the same. Okay, it's a bit dirty, as you can see. I don't see any further damage though. The 10 years wasn't too bad for a temporary repair, considering. Right guys, onwards and upwards, put the new one in. Here was my clue to which components had blown up the last repair. You see here, always inspect the case after you've removed the board, because sometimes it will give clues like this and it saves you a lot of time. Here are the two boards side by side. Firstly the old one. You can see the voltages and the currents there. This is identical. You can see the two MOSFETs that I replaced and the configuration of how it should actually be. I couldn't find one of those diodes, so I had to use what I had. So this will be better for sure. So it's all back together, it's working fine. I would ordinarily test it without putting the back on and putting it all back together, but there's so many little rug rats around that if one jumped in and got electrocuted I'd never forgive myself, so it's all put back together and working. We'll see if it switches itself off again.